Everything you thought you knew about the Duchess of Sussex is currently being dismantled piece by the very people who shared her blood and her bed. In a sterile hospital room in Mexico, far away from the manicured lawns of Montecito, a fuse was lit that is now threatening to incinerate the most carefully crafted public image in modern history. As Thomas Markle lay battling for his life in late 2025, the silence from his second daughter, Meghan, wasn't just a family feud anymore. It was the catalyst for a total war. Samantha Markle has emerged from that hospital room with a vow of destruction, armed with a secret that doesn't just suggest a hidden past, but a completely different life that Meghan allegedly attempted to delete from the world's memory. The air in that hospital ward was thick with more than just the sound of heart monitors. For Thomas Markle, a man whose name has become synonymous with royal rejection, the physical pain of major heart surgery was nothing compared to the spiritual wound of the empty chair by his bedside. Insiders say Thomas made desperate final attempts to reach his daughter in California, leaving emotional voicemails and heart-wrenching texts that were met with a digital void. But it was during these weakened, whispered moments that the vault of secrets finally cracked open. Thomas reportedly spoke of another child, a granddaughter kept in the shadows, a remnant of a life Meghan supposedly scrubbed clean. Samantha watched her father deteriorate under the weight of this rejection and decided that the time for protection was over. The hospital watch ended, and a global hunt for the truth began. But to understand the daughter in the shadows, we have to look at the man Meghan has spent 20 years trying to turn into a ghost. Long before the Hollywood producers and the British princes, there was a law student in Chicago named Joe Giuliano. He is the specter Meghan Markle thought she had successfully erased. Joe wasn't just a college fling. He was the scion of an old-money Chicago family, the kind of ideal partner for a young woman with an unquenchable thirst for power and luxury. Their story began in the late 90s at Northwestern University, where Meghan was already honing the poise that would one day fool a monarchy. According to those close to the Giuliano family, they saw her coming a mile away, a young actress, too hungry for the trappings of their wealth. The relationship was a whirlwind that moved from the elite restaurants of Chicago to a neon-lit chapel in Las Vegas between 1999 and 2000. There was no royal pomp, no international press, just a quick, discreet exchange of vows that would later become the ultimate legal liability. The marriage lasted only months before the Giuliano patriarchs intervened with massive force. They didn't just want a divorce, they wanted an annulment, a legal declaration that the union never existed. This is a crucial distinction. An annulment suggests fraud or deception, a way to wipe the slate completely clean. The Giuliano family allegedly felt Joe was being used as a stepping stone, and they hired high-priced attorneys to ensure Meghan was scrubbed from their family tree. For 2 decades, a heavy cash settlement and ironclad non-disclosure agreements kept Joe silent. But the silence has finally broken. Leaked fragments of a Nevada marriage certificate and private photos of a smiling young couple are circulating in investigative circles, proving that the first marriage wasn't just a rumor, it was a reality Meghan buried deep in the desert sand. But the marriage isn't the most devastating part of the dossier. At the center of this storm is a real person, a young woman in her mid-20s who has spent her entire life in forced secrecy. Samantha Markle and Joe Giuliano are now alleging that this woman is the daughter Meghan gave birth to and subsequently abandoned. The pregnancy reportedly happened during that brief, ill-fated marriage to Joe, serving as the real reason for the rushed Vegas wedding. When the marriage was annulled, the Giuliano family reportedly took full custody of the child, raising her in a world of security and luxury, but one that was forever haunted by the absence of her biological mother. While Meghan was constructing a new identity in Hollywood, her eldest child was reportedly watching from a distance, seeing her mother become one of the most famous women on the planet while remaining a complete stranger to her own flesh and blood. The details of this abandonment are harrowing. Those who know the young woman describe her as intelligent but carrying an unavoidable brokenness. When she turned 18, she reportedly reached out to Meghan seeking nothing more than a recognition of her existence. The response, the same deafening silence that Thomas Markle experienced in his hospital bed. This final rejection occurring just as she entered adulthood has become the emotional core of Samantha's crusade. Samantha has now issued a direct public dare take a DNA test. It's a simple scientific challenge that could either expose a massive fraud or exonerate the Duchess completely. Yet the silence from Montecito continues, and to many that silence is starting to sound like a confession. When you look at these allegations, a chilling pattern begins to emerge, a ladder of men where each marriage served as a strategic merger. Joe Giuliano was the passport to old money and social standing. Once his family became a burden, he was erased. Then came Trevor Engelson, the Hollywood producer who provided the keys to the kingdom of the entertainment industry. Their 2011 wedding in Jamaica was a public sanctioned event, a stark contrast to the Vegas secret. But as soon as her show suits became a hit, Trevor was outgrown. The 2013 divorce was famously abrupt, leaving Engelson so stunned he has remained largely silent to this day. He was a stepping stone that had served its purpose. And then the ultimate elevation, Prince Harry. The marriage to Harry in 2018 wasn't just a romance, it was a global brand expansion. With the help of influential contacts like Marcus Anderson, Meghan ascended to the highest levels of the British monarchy. But the pattern remained unchanged. Rewrite the narrative, cast yourself as the victim, and cut off anyone who doesn't fit the new image. Samantha Markle's evidence suggests that Harry might be the most significant piece in this game, a gallant prince, who may have been kept entirely in the dark about the complicated and deliberate history his wife was hiding. If the allegations are true, Harry didn't rescue a damsel in distress. He was the final rung on a ladder that started in a Vegas chapel 25 years ago. The evidence is no longer just hearsay. A dossier of evidential proof is currently being vetted by investigative journalists. This includes time-stamped photos of a teenage Meghan visibly pregnant at private Giuliano family gatherings. There are audio recordings of a distraught Joe Giuliano from the early 2000s pleading with Meghan to acknowledge their daughter. Digital detectives have already begun side-by-side comparisons of the secret daughter and a young Meghan, highlighting eerie similarities in their features that many say are impossible to ignore. Scanned pages of court notes from the annulment reportedly detail the custody arrangements and mentions of settlements for silence. The wall of secrecy isn't just cracking, it's being dismantled piece by piece. This is more than a family feud. It's an existential crisis for the Sussex brand. Archewell was built on the pillars of compassion, honesty, and family values. If it is proven that the figurehead of that brand abandoned her own child for the sake of ambition, the hypocrisy will be fatal. Corporate partners are reportedly already renegotiating contracts, and the British monarchy, already on shaky ground, is bracing for a scandal that could redefine the royal legacy. For Prince Harry, the fallout is personal. He sacrificed his family and his country for a woman who may have been hiding a life he never signed up for. Samantha Markle is not backing down. She has scheduled a massive, unfiltered, televised sit-down to present the full dossier to the world. Joe Giuliano's claims, Thomas's sorrowful recollections, and perhaps even a statement from the daughter herself are all on the table. Samantha insists this is about justice for a father who almost died alone and for a young woman who grew up as a secret. The Duchess's carefully curated world is crumbling under the weight of a history she thought she had outrun. And as the truth finally surfaces, the world is left asking, who is the real Meghan Markle? The answer might be more shocking than anyone ever imagined. This is where the story shifts from family drama into a high-stakes legal siege that has reached the highest courts in the land. Samantha Markle's crusade isn't just about hurt feelings. It's about what her legal team calls the right to a narrative. In late 2025 and throughout the first months of 2026, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals became the battlefield for a war that Meghan thought she had already won. The core of Samantha's argument is that the Duchess didn't just tell her story to Oprah. She weaponized a global platform to paint a rags-to-royalty fairy tale that required the systematic erasure of her actual life. Samantha's lawyers are pushing the theory that by claiming she was an only child, Meghan wasn't just sharing a feeling, she was executing a calculated move to delegitimize any family member who could testify to her pre-Hollywood life. The courtrooms in Florida have seen a flurry of activity, with Samantha's team claiming that the Duchess's malicious lies were a strategy to protect a carefully constructed brand. They argue that if Meghan admitted to having close ties with her half-siblings, she would have to admit to the things they knew specifically, the missing years between 1999 and 2004. This period, which Meghan's official biography brushes over as her time as a struggling student and actress, is exactly where the Giuliano marriage and the alleged secret child are said to exist. Every time Meghan wins a motion to dismiss Samantha's team returns with a new request for admission demanding the Duchess address the specific names and dates that have started to leak from private investigators. The legal pressure is designed to do one thing: force Meghan into a deposition where she would have to speak under oath. For a woman who has built a brand on her truth, the prospect of a biological truth being forced out in a courtroom is the ultimate nightmare. As we look closer at the shadow daughter, the rumors have taken a turn that is even more unsettling. For years, digital detectives have pointed to Meghan's niece Noelle Rasmussen or her other niece Ashley Hale as potential candidates for this secret daughter. But the latest whispers coming out of the Markle camp suggest the real individual is someone entirely different. A young woman who has lived her entire life under a different name in Chicago, protected by the Giuliano family's significant wealth. The speculation reached a fever pitch in August 2025 when Meghan launched the second season of her lifestyle show. Rather than ignoring the secret child theory, she chose to mock it during an episode, joking about a made-up child named Hansworth. To her supporters, it was a brilliant display of humor. To her detractors, it was a chillingly deflective tactic used by someone who knows that the real person is getting dangerously close to the spotlight. The tragedy of the situation is perhaps most visible in the Philippines, where Thomas Markle is currently fighting his final battle. In December 2025, the Markle patriarch faced a life-or-death crisis that resulted in the amputation of his left leg. As he sits in a rehabilitation center in early 2026 trying to master a prosthetic limb at 81 years old, the contrast between his reality and Meghan's lifestyle brand is jarring. Thomas Jr. has become the family's vocal enforcer, using his YouTube live streams to blast his sister for her perceived coldness. He recently revealed that while Meghan reportedly sent a letter to her father's bedside delivered by U.S. embassy officials like a state document, she hasn't picked up the phone once. Thomas Jr. called it mind-boggling that a woman who preaches compassion would leave her father to navigate a life-changing disability without a cent of financial help or a single visit. This isn't just about a daughter and a father anymore. It's about a global brand being exposed as a hollow shell. The timing of these bombshells isn't accidental. As Meghan prepares for another major career relaunch in March 2026, the Markle family seems intent on ensuring that her past is the first thing people think about when they see her face. The evidence dossier that Samantha has been teasing is said to include more than just photos of a teenage pregnancy. It reportedly contains medical records and financial wire transfers that could prove a settlement for silence took place. If these documents are real, they wouldn't just be a family secret. They would be proof of a decades-long cover-up. The rumors of hush money paid to Joe Giuliano suggest that Meghan's ascent was never about luck, but about the strategic removal of liabilities. Every person she discarded on her way up the ladder is now standing together, ready to pull that ladder down. This brings us to the most dangerous element of the dossier, the DNA ultimatum. Samantha's public challenge for a DNA test is a guillotine that is hanging over the Sussex brand. In the age of viral movements, the hashtag #TakeTheTest has started to trend every time Meghan makes a public appearance. It's a simple scientific request that bypasses all the PR spin and legal jargon. If Meghan has nothing to hide, a DNA test would end the rumors forever and destroy Samantha's credibility. But by refusing to acknowledge it, Meghan is fueling the speculation that a positive result would confirm the existence of a woman who has every reason to be angry. The young lady in Chicago is no longer just a concept. She is a person who has reportedly spent her life asking, "Why was I never enough?" and "Why did you leave?" If she ever decides to step into the light herself, no amount of crisis management will be able to stop the fallout. The Archwell apocalypse is the term some branding experts are using to describe the potential collapse. Corporate partners are reportedly growing skittish as the allegations of mother abandonment refuse to go away. In a world where authenticity is the most valuable currency, a duchess who is accused of hiding her own firstborn is a toxic asset. Even Prince Harry, once the gallant prince who stood by his wife against the world, is reportedly feeling the strain. Sources close to the couple suggest that the discovery of a complicated history that was never fully disclosed to him has led to fiery rows in Montecito. Imagine being the man who gave up his royalty, his family, and his home for a woman only to find out that the rags to royalty story he fell in love with was a carefully edited script. Harry might have thought he was saving a victim, but he may realize he was actually just the final rung on the ladder. The battle is entering its most aggressive phase yet. Samantha Markle has reportedly secured a massive, unfiltered televised sit-down, a truth summit, where she plans to present the physical evidence to the world. Joe Giuliano, driven by a mix of guilt and rage at seeing his own family broken by the fallout, is allegedly prepared to testify about the Las Vegas marriage and the daughter he was forced to raise in secret. This isn't a dispute over who said what at a wedding rehearsal. This is an investigation into a woman's entire identity. The social climber narrative is the ultimate high-retention story because it suggests that under the royal titles and the expensive clothes, there is a person who is willing to erase her own history to get what she wants. As the cameras get ready for Samantha's sit-down, the world is watching Montecito to see if the wall of silence will finally break. The Duchess's carefully crafted world, built on the foundations of money, power, and high-end public relations, is trembling. The truth that was buried behind non-disclosure agreements and settlements for silence is proving to be unstoppable. When the weight of a history you tried to escape finally catches up to you, there is nowhere left to hide. The abandoned daughter, the erased husband, and the discarded father are all coming for their recognition. And when the final chapter of this story is written, we may find that the most shocking evidence of all wasn't in a photo or a document, but in the calculated silence of a woman who thought she could delete her past. Thank you for staying with us through this deep dive into the crumbling empire of the Duchess. This story is evolving by the hour, and we will be here to bring you every update as the Markle dossier is finally revealed. What do you think? Is Meghan a victim of a coordinated family attack, or is the social climber mask finally slipping? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more untold stories about the royals. Goodbye for now.